By 2009, Disney has owned Power Rangers for about 8 years and have proven they can make amazing shows. However, they apparently just had enough of it. Power Rangers has never really been Disney's top priority, and Power Rangers RPM would be the final Power Rangers season under the Disney umbrella, and the end of Power Rangers as a whole. So because of that, once again, they decided to go all out, creating what many people consider to be the best season of Power Rangers ever. Again, for the first time ever, having a more gritty and mature tone with the writing and setting. A Power Rangers show focusing on actual characters and drama. It really is such an experimental concept for Power Rangers, and with the franchise once again coming to an end, they had nothing to lose. The only obstacle being that the Sentai RPM is based off of, Engine Sentai Go-Onger, was a little more lighthearted and goofy in tone. Not an impossible obstacle by any means, but still something to keep in mind. So how did the new dark and edgy Power Rangers fare in my opinion? Let's find out. The road to Corinth. We open up with a look at this world. A deadly computer virus named Vengix has infected the world, taking control of all communication, power, and defense systems. With that, he created an army and wiped out all of humanity. Well, not all of it, because the only safe haven from Vengix is in a dome city called Corinth, humanity's last beacon for survival. We open up on what this post-apocalyptic world looks like. Soldiers are doing their best to fight Vengix's forces, and it's complete chaos. A school bus pulls up with a charming Scottish fella named Flynn. The man leading the charge is Colonel Truman. They put up a good fight, but eventually need to pull back. Truman telling Corinth to raise the defense shields, but he's calling out to Eagle 1 and Eagle 2 who are not responsive. As the shields raise and the doors shut, a motorcycle comes flying in. On it are a pretty blonde girl named Summer and Eagle 2, aka Scott. Truman asks what happened to Eagle 1, and Scott says that he didn't make it. Truman dismisses Scott before Scott calls him Dad. A soldier asks Truman, what if there's more people out there? And he responds with,
then heaven help them, because we can't.
We cut to 1 year later, somewhere outside the dome. A lone vagrant is driving through the desert, presumably looking for Corinth. He's down to his last bit of water, but when he sees a flower, he chooses to water it. Just then, he gets jumped by the Grinders, Vengix's foot soldiers. We don't get to fully see the fight, but we do see the aftermath. While pulling off to the side, he gets distracted by his locket playing a song. That's when he gets ambushed by a stranger, demanding his car and any supplies he has.
I'm the one holding the blaster here.
It feels like a 4.5-inch outtake muffler.
This is Ziggy, and he's not exactly a great thief. The man breaks it in half and Ziggy begs, saying he knows how to get to Corinth and they can team up. And the man hesitantly agrees. On the drive, Ziggy asks for the man's name, and he says he doesn't know. Or better, he doesn't remember anything. On the way to Corinth, Vengix's defense system starts attacking. We get a really cool action scene in the car, Dylan throwing bombs while Ziggy whimpers and cries.
We can still turn back!
With their lives in the balance, the man tells Ziggy that he can call him Dylan. Colonel Truman sees a car heading to Corinth and demands the gates to be open. However, the cooldown to shut them again will take a bit. They open it up and Dylan and Ziggy make it through. However, so does a monster and some grinders. We see a computer named Dr. K send down their team, where Scott, Flynn, and Summer show up. They take out their morphers and...
RPM! Get in!
They morph into the Power Rangers. They then lay the smackdown on the Grinders. The suits are really nice. Maybe a bit too Power Rangers-y for this kind of world, but I won't complain. I love the unique helmets and the big gold numbers on the chest, although the chest accessory resembling a seatbelt does look a little goofy for what we're going for here. There's also tires on the legs that can spin around and act as weapons. Clashing with the show's tone aside, I think these are really iconic and pretty costumes. And the episode ends with Ziggy fanboying out being able to finally see the Power Rangers.
What's a Power Ranger?
Fade to black. The Rangers bust out their weapons, the Street Saber, Turbo Cannon, and Zip Charger, and with them, destroy the monsters. However, with the force field still down, Vengix is able to continue the attack with his ships, so Dr. K sends out the Ranger Zords. Naturally, they're all some kind of car, some cuter than others. Eventually, they need to combine and they create the high-octane Megazord. It's a cool design. I like the exhaust pipes on the side of the head, and it uses a car as a shield. I especially like the cute little anime eyes staring at you. They use the Super Saber, and with Dylan's help, they destroy the rest of the forces and get the force field back up. Summer goes to thank Dylan for his help, but they're quickly swarmed by the military, with Ziggy sticking by his new friend.
Sir, he's an infiltrator.
I don't even know this dude.
They can scan and pick up some Venjix technology, landing the two in prison. Dr. K tells the Rangers that Venjix's forces are getting stronger, and the Megazord requires the Black Ranger and the Green Ranger, or as Dr. K calls it, Ranger Operator Series Black and Green. They don't know who's qualified, but Summer has an idea. We cut back to Dylan and Ziggy being interrogated, with Dylan being a smartass, and Ziggy keeping his mouth shut.
Okay, you win.
He trauma dumps on the guards who are so infatuated with his stories. It's honestly super charming.
I had actually gone to school in my underwear.
Dylan meanwhile says he doesn't remember much of anything, only looking for someone and that he was implanted with Venjix robotics, giving him super strength and abilities. Summer shows up to try and recruit Dylan, but he's not interested, instead planning on just breaking out of prison, with Ziggy thinking they're still a duo, and when he asks why on earth he'd bring Ziggy with him,
Brilliant shadow puppets.
I'm sold. We see that Ziggy isn't a popular guy, with all the prisoners having it out for him. However, when they start to badmouth and belittle Ziggy, Dylan stands up for him, angering the convicts and beating them up in a really impressive unmorphed fight. It's not your typical flashy kung fu we're used to, it's more realistic and gritty. Like, you can tell if this weren't Power Rangers, Dylan would be burning this guy's hand on the stove. The episode ends with the Rangers showing up to ask Dylan again to join the team, where now, under these new circumstances, he reconsiders. And the episode ends with Venjix creating a new powerful human-like robot general, named Tenaya 7. Rain. They take Dylan to their headquarters called The Garage. Dylan says the hero stuff isn't for him, butting heads with Scott and Flynn. Dylan only comes around a bit when Scott taunts him, saying he probably couldn't even pass the physical exam. We get a fun montage of Dylan passing every physical test with flying colors. He had his fun with that, but again is ultimately still hesitant on becoming a ranger. But just then, it starts raining in Corinth. Dylan sees some children and changes his mind, joining the team. Now, if you'll recall, this episode is titled Rain. Not only because it's raining during the turning point in Dylan's character so far, but let's overanalyze this scene. Our first introduction to Dylan was him sacrificing his last bit of water for a flower in the desert. That flower was the only living thing in this barren wasteland riddled with death. But now, inside Corinth, he's seeing more than a single flower holding on for dear life. He sees people trying to live their lives. The rain in Corinth is simulated to give the illusion that life can continue to try and go back to normal. Water represents life and renewal. Dylan was willing to sacrifice his life for the potential of that flower to grow into a field and restore humanity. And just like that flower, Dylan sees the potential of these humans who haven't given up hope. I'm telling you, man, RPM is a different breed. Dylan says he'll join the team on one condition. They free Ziggy and bring him to the garage. And I love Dylan's reasoning.
He can make shadow puppets.
It's here we learn that the morphers are genetically bonded to whoever morphs with it first. Dylan's given his morpher, which unlike the rest of the team's cell phone design, he wears his on his wrist and transforms into the Black Ranger. Later that night though, Dylan is having second thoughts, having nightmares of this missing person he's looking for. So he steals Scott's car and plans on leaving Corinth to find her. Before the others can find him, Venjix sends down a monster and some grinders, and the Rangers gotta fight. They handle themselves for a bit, but eventually get overwhelmed by the numbers. Ziggy gets the idea to transmit the Rangers' communication to Scott's car. Dylan overhears how much trouble they're all in, showing up to the fight and morphing.
Get in gear!
The Rangers form the Megazord and fight the monster, while Dylan single-handedly takes on the army of grinders all alone. They destroy the monster, and Dylan, as usual, takes care of business. Go for the green. With the Black Ranger being found, all the team needs now is a Green Ranger. Ziggy was kind enough to hold auditions and find potential candidates, but they're all kinda lackluster. Ziggy runs into a man named Fresno Bob, a mafia guy who Ziggy is apparently in debt to. We don't know why yet. However, before they beat up Ziggy, a woman shows up and saves him by beating up the thugs. She says she's trying out for the Green Ranger, but Ziggy was so impressed by her that he automatically says she got the part. It turns out though, this is Tenaya 7. She beats up some security and Ziggy sees this, running away with the morpher. The two get into another fight where Tenaya is trying to morph so the Green Ranger powers will be bonded with her. So to avoid that, Ziggy manages to strap the morpher onto himself and morphs into the Green Ranger.
I'm a Power Ranger! I don't want to be a Power Ranger!
They meet up with the rest of the Rangers who are fighting a monster, where Ziggy reveals that he is the new Green Ranger, much to the shock and dismay of everyone.
Just a few things about the rules about taking a uniform on dates.
Alright, now we can finally do a little overview segment. I know I usually do this after the first episode or two, but I wanted to wait until we got the entire team together. RPM so far has such a unique tone. As I said in the beginning, it's edgier and grittier than what we're used to. The Breaking Bad yellow filter is such a unique direction, and spending a lot of time with the characters talking and not just rushing to the Megazords and Morphers shows a lot of restraint. But despite how more grounded and serious the show is, when the wit and comedy comes in, it hits 10 times as hard with genuinely fun banter. Almost everything that comes out of Ziggy's mouth is pure gold.
What's with the spandex?
We're also, for the first time ever, focusing on the Black Ranger as our main character, because so far we don't really know much about Scott, Flynn, and Summer despite them being the main traditional Rangers. The dynamic of the team is pretty dysfunctional, considering they're mainly just working together because they're the best candidates to handle the powers, not because they're besties. Dylan and Scott are constantly butting heads, with Scott being assigned team leader, and Dylan, well, being his own leader. Summer tries to be the mediator for everyone, the glue that holds the team together. Ziggy, though, gets on everyone's nerves. I love that for him. Dr. K is the team's mentor. They're just a disembodied voice who takes their job very seriously, but also quick to anger. But ultimately, what matters most in Power Rangers is the theme song. Every episode of RPM opens up with a voice explaining the story about Vengeance and Corinth, and it's followed up with a very mid song. Yeah, I guess all of RPM couldn't be peak. It's just a generic guitar riff with the singer occasionally going, However, there were a couple of demo themes that would see the light of day. So let's review those. The first song here is pretty underwhelming. It's got a lot of energy, but really doesn't fit with the tone of the show.
Power Rangers, get it, get it.
But the most interesting thing to note here is that it was sung by Danny of Game Grumps. Yes, Mr. Ninja Sex Party himself sang this demo. This is blowing my mind right now, because like many people, I had a huge Game Grumps phase, and this is like two of my hyperfixations crossing over. It's great.
We have come to join the team to fight the Vengeance war machines.
Demo number 2 is a bit better, but a bit too Digimon.
If they try to take us, get in here. Never gonna break us. We are here.
However, I've easily saved the best for last. This demo starts off with a Wild West sting to match the desolate vibe, to then be followed up by
This is the last stand for humanity. Power Rangers, RPM, let's go.
Now look, I know I said that the pop punk doesn't match the vibe of the show, but for this one in particular, I don't care.
We're here to save humanity. This is the last stand, and we'll do our best.
This is easily in the top 3 Power Rangers theme songs of all time, and it's not even official. This was the right choice, Disney. You don't deserve Power Rangers.
Power Rangers, RPM, let's go.
Yeah, anyway, with all that, let's continue on with Power Rangers RPM. Handshake. We open up with Dylan and Scott bonding. And by bonding, I mean trying to one-up each other with their cars. Dr. K, meanwhile, needs Dylan to test out his new ability. He's able to summon a shield that makes him 100% invincible. However, he needs to fully believe that it'll work in order for it to actually work. Naturally, he's a bit skeptical, and it doesn't work. The training gets interrupted when the Grinders attack. We get a cool civilian fight while each Ranger individually morphs.
RPM! Get in gear! Clap! Yeah!
Tenaya 7 shows up and Dylan once again tries to use his invincibility, but once again isn't able to trust it. Back at the command center, Dylan lays into Dr. K, saying he has no reason to trust the doctor since nobody has ever seen its face, not having that personal relationship that needs to be there for trust to be built. Meanwhile, Tenaya 7 has a new plan. During the fight, she detached her hand and had it stow away with the Rangers, spying on them and trying to steal their tech. So the Rangers get into a fight with a hand, even needing to morph to even up the fight. Eventually, Dylan puts his faith in Dr. K and uses the invincibility shield, reflecting a blast and having Tenaya 7's hand retreat. Meanwhile, a monster is attacking Corinth and the Rangers summon their Zords, with Dylan and Ziggy trying out theirs for the first time, the Tail Spinner and Wolf Cruiser. And just look at how intimidating they are. The episode ends with Dr. K not appearing on the screen, but instead finally revealing their identity to the Rangers.
You thought I'd be taller.
Ranger Green. With Dr. K no longer hiding behind a screen, she's able to be more herself to the Rangers. She's a very calculated and blunt person, clearly lacking some social skills behind all that great genius. Anyway, Dr. K is ripping into Ziggy, not impressed by his charm or wit, flat out saying that he's not worthy to be a Ranger. She's trying to teach him his ability, teleportation, with less than stellar results. Things only get worse when a monster attacks Corinth and the Rangers fight it. Ziggy tries to teleport again, but ends up in a bank vault, landing him in prison. He explains what happened, but Colonel Truman doesn't let him walk free yet, saying that he actually has a criminal record. We then cut to Ziggy's backstory. Before the Vengeance Apocalypse, Ziggy was trying to work as a low-level goon for Fresno Bob. However, he wasn't very good at that either. He even went to shake down Jungle Karma Pizza for their money. What kind of shenanigans did RJ get up to? The Rangers even asked Fresno Bob what happened. Ziggy's first job was to shake down a children's hospital for their money, which he of course couldn't do. Fresno Bob then told Ziggy to take a truck and drive it to their base. But instead, Ziggy never came back, taking the truck for himself. Everyone is in shock at this revelation, with Dr. K saying to let him sit in prison and retrieve Ziggy's morpher. The Rangers then get called to fight a monster and some grinders. They're overpowered though and need Ziggy's help. Just then though, an ex-associate of Fresno Bob visits Dr. K, wanting to explain the truth. Ziggy didn't steal that truck for himself. The truck was full of medical supplies, and Ziggy took that to the children's hospital. He stayed quiet this entire time, because if Fresno Bob ever found out what Ziggy did, they would go after the hospital. This changes Dr. K's perspective on Ziggy a little bit. As an apology, she saves Ziggy from a beatdown from Fresno Bob's gang and gives him back his morpher, helping the Rangers defeat the monster. And the episode ends with Ziggy seeing a more friendly side to Dr. K as well. Ranger Red. We open up on a pretty fun action scene, with Ziggy and Scott fighting the grinders, Scott confidently showing his leadership role with quips and martial arts, while Ziggy is just trying his best.
That'll teach him to monkey around, get it?
Ziggy compliments Scott's ability as a leader, and that's when we start the flashback. Scott was in the Air Force with his brother Marcus. Scott wasn't the greatest pilot, at least compared to Marcus, with Colonel Truman being especially tough on the boys. Marcus is the first rank, and Colonel Truman wants a letter of recommendation for his second in command by the end of the day. He does, keeping it in a red envelope. Just then, Vengeance's forces start attacking Corinth. Their forces were strong, and unfortunately Marcus was shot down, being KIA. Leading to the events of episode 1, with Summer saving Scott on her motorcycle and getting to Corinth. The Rangers end up fighting a monster that's too powerful, so Dr. K says that they need a remote flux overthruster core reactor, and the only one in Corinth was on Marcus's plane, outside the dome in the wreckage. Scott asks his father for some military backup since the Rangers will be looking over the city, and he's denied it, saying it's too dangerous. So, with no other choice, Scott ventures outside the dome on his own. It's dangerous, and I really like this interaction between Dylan and Dr. K.
Scott. His name is Scott.
And this is relevant how?
Finding the reactor, and Marcus's letter of recommendation. He gets jumped by the grinders, but Colonel Truman and some soldiers show up to help in the fight. And with the core, or reactor, or whatever this is in his hand, the Rangers can combine Dylan and Ziggy Zords to create the Valve Max Megazord, destroying the monster and saving Corinth once again. And of course, the episode ends with Colonel Truman reading Marcus's letter, seeing that Marcus recommended Scott as his second in command. Ranger Yellow Part 1. There's a school field trip at Dr. K's lab, where the kids ask the real questions about the Power Rangers.
Where do you get your spandex?
That is not spandex! The material is a self-assembling membrane.
One girl asks about Summer and compliments her for being nice, asking if she's always been this way. Starting her flashback cutscene. She's riding on a dirt bike in her backyard, but we quickly see that she's actually a spoiled rich girl, with her parents not really being around, and instead has the company of her butler, Andrews. The flashback gets interrupted by a monster attack, needing to fight while the kids watch from the command center.
Dr. K, do you think I could be a Power Ranger someday?
I highly doubt it.
They defeat the monster, and when they return back to the garage, a snobby rich couple is hanging out, insulting everyone and everything for looking poor. And yup, it's revealed that these are Summer's parents. They're here to take her away from this poor person ranger stuff so she could fulfill a promise she made. This leads to another flashback, where at her birthday party they didn't show up, but instead gave her a family heirloom, the Lansdowne Diamond, which Tenaya 7 is trying to steal so Venjix can use it as an energy source. Summer's final flashback for part 1 has her and her friends trying to hitch a ride to Corinth. Now, they take on everyone except Summer since they're at capacity. But like, I think given the circumstances you could make an exception, leaving her stranded to fend for herself. And fueled by this anger and PTSD, she takes it out on Tenaya 7, causing Tenaya to retreat. The episode ends with Dylan telling Summer's parents that they don't own her, but Scott says it's none of their business, whatever it may be. Whether it be Summer needing to go back to school or
get married? I promised him I'd get married.
Ranger Yellow Part 2. The opening of the episode is fun. The Rangers are fighting the Grinders while casually talking about how shocked they are that Summer promised her parents to get married. It turns out Summer's family is now broke, so they want her to marry the son of another rich family so they can be rich again, with Summer not wanting to go through with this, and instead telling her parents to get a job. Summer's flashback continues, waving around her money and realizing it's no good. Just then, Andrews pulls up to save her. Even during the apocalypse, Summer treats Andrews terribly, eventually coming to this realization herself and asking him why he's still putting up with it.
I'm waiting for you to show me who you really are.
He believes that this isn't the real her, that Summer has something more to prove in her life. Summer says she doesn't know who she is, and Andrews says that's okay, and he'll continue waiting. The Grinders attack, and Summer finally steps up, getting a hold of a blaster and shooting them down. However, Andrews was badly wounded trying to protect her, saying he'll always watch over her, before passing away. Summer eventually making it to Corinth. She's also going through with the wedding for her family's sake. However, she sees Tenaya 7 scheming with the Grinders, and leading to a wedding fight! Now this is a cool scene, the Rangers in their fancy tuxedos kicking butt, complete with Flynn's kilt, and Summer fighting Tenaya in her wedding dress. They grab the diamond and retreat. So it's time to get in gear!
Summer, you look,
Alright, now it's time! Get in gear! They destroy the monster, and Summer's parents apologize, telling the rich family to eat rocks, and that they'll even get Ranger Blue. The Rangers and Dr. K are having a meeting, where the Rangers are also asking some very important questions. Such as, why do the Zords have eyes?
They're optical field scanning sensors for your cockpit's A2D display.
It's a cute scene, giving some lore to the Power Ranger shenanigans that we all just kinda accept as the norm.
Sometimes when I morph, I can't help but notice this gigantic explosion right behind me.
Before this can continue though, the Rangers gotta fight some Grinders invading the city, before needing to morph.
There! See that explosion?
There's honestly so many iconic and hilarious moments in this episode. Tenaya 7 shows up and gets into a fight with Flynn, leading to this.
So what are you supposed to be?
I'm Scottish!
During the fight though, Flynn is hit with a blast that freezes him solid. This is where we start getting his flashback. Ever since he was a kid, Flynn just wanted to be a superhero. However, it never really worked out. He wasn't able to stand up to bullies in grade school, and when he graduated, he wasn't fit for work. Flynn wanted nothing more in life than to be a hero, but unfortunately, the world didn't need him as one. Until the Venjix attack. Him and his father were shuttled to Corinth, but when he overhears a woman saying there's more survivors, Flynn commandeers the bus for himself to save them, fighting through Grinders and all kinds of danger, eventually making it back to Corinth with everyone safe and sound. And Flynn's father saying he's proud of his son, since his father has constantly told him that heroes don't exist in the real world. Eventually, they're able to get Flynn moving again, but the power fried his morpher. But he gives Dr. K the idea to reverse the polarity, essentially to supercharge the morpher at the risk of it being destroyed. But if it works, it'll create a giant explosion like Ziggy's mentioned. So he morphs and that's an explosion! Supercharged with confidence and his flashbacks, he single-handedly and excitedly whoops the villains. The episode ends with Flynn checking on his dad, and seeing that he has a scrapbook with newspaper clippings of all of his son's heroic deeds. Dr. K. As you might have guessed, this is where we learn about Dr. K's backstory. We open up with her playing the violin intensely, almost as if it's a form of therapy. We see that Dr. K was a child prodigy, solving equations like it was nothing. However, she was then taken in by a government agency known as Alphabet Soup, using her brains to solve equations. What for exactly, though, we're never told. This was just her new life, all the way up into adulthood. Every birthday she asks to go outside, but she's constantly told that she has a life-threatening allergy to the sun. This has gone on for so long that Dr. K can't even remember her own name. While in Alphabet Soup, Dr. K was developing the Ranger technology, but she didn't do it alone, having the help of two other brilliant kids who were captured and forced into the program, Jem and Gemma, an upbeat and quirky brother-sister duo. Unlike Dr. K, they're super energetic and finish each other's sandwiches. And they're super happy to be friends with Dr. K.
You two should know I don't even like you.
Eventually though, Dr. K learns that she doesn't have a sun allergy, and that she's been lied to this entire time. A corrupt government agency that stole her childhood and used her knowledge for God knows what. Telling Jem and Gemma that this was all a lie and she's going to break them all out. How so exactly? Dr. K created a small computer virus that will infect Alphabet Soup, and she named it Project Vengeance. She started to upload it to Alphabet Soup systems, but the agents detected it and took them away. However, she was unable to stop the upload, warning them that the virus is too powerful and it will spread to the outside world, which it quickly did. Vengeance infected the entire world in a matter of seconds. Dr. K then sent out the warning about Corinth and Vengeance's danger. She grabs the Ranger technology and tries to leave, but the agents stop her, saying that word can't get out that Vengeance originated from here. Jem and Gemma then save Dr. K, sacrificing themselves so she can be free. And the episode ends with Dr. K looking over at these gold and silver ribbons that she keeps as a memento for her friends who sacrificed themselves to save her. This mini arc was unlike anything I've ever seen in Power Rangers. It really gives us a lot to work with and fleshes out these characters so much more. Everyone comes from such a sympathetic background, especially Dr. K. Seriously, this was easily the saddest episode I've seen in Power Rangers. These also all could have just been flashback episodes that didn't impact the current story, but they all were perfectly intertwined to further the plot and give us a look into their lives. Everyone except Dylan. However, the next episode may give us what we're looking for. Blitz. We open up on Dylan attempting to recall his memory. Flashes of events are happening before his eyes. He's running, trying to escape with the girl, but is ultimately unable to save her, before waking up in a cold sweat. The Rangers get called to fight a monster. It's a really long and intense fight, being about 90% of the episode. It's awesome. Eventually, Dylan runs into a monster he recognizes, one that steals memories and puts it on his database, with the monster revealing it has Dylan's too. Naturally, Dylan doesn't want to destroy it. There's a moment where Dylan pleads with Scott as team leader to not destroy him, but Scott makes the difficult choice and says there's no other way, with Dylan eventually coming around to destroy the monster, saying he'll get his memories back one way or another. The episode ends with Dr. K running some tests on Dylan, and makes a terrifying discovery. The Vengeance technology that's inside Dylan is starting to activate, and it will soon take over his entire mind and body. Brother's Keeper. We open up with Scott and Dylan racing on the beach, but it's interrupted when Tenaya 7 shows up. Although, she's definitely outnumbered.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, now this isn't fair.
Where they all get into a fight and the Rangers win. Back at the garage, we see Summer pondering over both Scott and Dylan, with Dr. K being perceptive enough to see that she has a crush on both of them, but one more than the other. Just then, Dylan's Vengeance programming goes haywire and he starts attacking everyone, until Dr. K manages to stop him temporarily and strap him down. Dr. K even saying that Dylan isn't worth saving, but Summer vehemently stands up against that, which proves to Dr. K who Summer truly loves. Dylan sees how much of a risk he is to the team and decides to leave. However, Scott catches him and won't let him go, resorting to handcuffing himself to Dylan. He threw away the key, but luckily Ziggy has a spare that he ate. So Dylan and Scott are now handcuffed to each other, enjoying some fun shenanigans. But we do get a nice moment between the two actually bonding as friends, not butting heads for once. The monster attacks the city and the Rangers fight it, with Dylan and Scott doing some cool tandem martial arts. They morph and break free from the chains, which they probably could have done since the beginning. They destroy the monster and save the day. The episode ends with the Rangers running more tests on Dylan, before his programming freaks out again. However, this time Dr. K steps in and is immediately able to shut it off, admitting to the Rangers that the reason she was able to do that was because she created Vengeance. Embodied. Summer's trying to help Dylan regain some of his memory. She tries hypnosis, and it works. Dylan now walking around in his past, seeing flashes of it, and a city sign that says Kenmore, a city that once existed miles away from the dome. But Dylan is adamant on going there to search for answers, with the Rangers joining in. So Scott borrows a vehicle from his dad, the Ground Outdoor Operational Network General Purpose Explorational Rover, or for short, Go-Onger. That is literally perfect. The gang are heading to Kenmore, however, due to the wastelands, they're cut off from power. Dr. K saying they only have enough energy for one Megazord configuration, before losing contact with her entirely. Before they can make it to Kenmore though, they're stopped by someone, Venjix, who's been downloaded into a physical body. He fights all the Rangers and handles them with ease. He brings in the grinders and the fight continues. It's really intense, and no matter what the Rangers bring to Venjix, he's able to counter it and stop them in their tracks, eventually thrashing them so hard that they demorph and need to retreat. The Rangers are trying to formulate a plan and decide they need to use their one Megazord configuration. But just then, two mysterious Zords come in, piloted by a gold and silver Ranger. They shoot down the ships and even destroy Venjix, before flying away to get something to eat. The episode ends with Tenaya arguing with General Crunch and General Shifter. They're the other generals I don't think I've mentioned yet, but just then, Venjix reappears, saying they only destroyed that physical body he was in, before being downloaded into a new one, saying that the Rangers are walking into his deadly trap. Ghosts. The Rangers eventually make it to Kenmore. They walk around, but Dylan says nothing looks familiar, but Summer urges him to keep searching. Meanwhile, Dr. K does some research and realizes that all of this is a trap set up by Venjix, that Dylan's memory about Kenmore was a false memory downloaded into him by the Venjix programming. She manages to make contact with Ziggy and Flint to inform them so they can leave, with Ziggy quickly telling Dr. K about the other two Zords that saved them, much to her surprise. The Rangers rendezvous, and Dylan realizes that these memories are fake, but it's too late. Venjix's army ambush the Rangers. They fight, but once again are overpowered. Luckily though, they're saved by the mysterious gold and silver Rangers. They excitedly beat down every grinder in sight, allowing the Rangers to retreat. However, they're stopped by Venjix and a monster, who destroy the Go-Onger, how could you? So, as you might have guessed, all the Rangers, including Gold and Silver, team up and fight to destroy the monster, and have Venjix flee. The episode ends with the Rangers taking the Gold and Silver Rangers to the garage, revealing their identities. Gem and Gemma.
Hello, Dr. K.
We've missed you.
In or out. With this heartwarming reunion between old friends, we get another nice moment. Gem and Gemma had a conversation with Dr. K, saying she might be too cold, considering she doesn't even call the Rangers by their real names. So, in an attempt to fix that, she goes around the room giving compliments to each Ranger, awkwardly, but heartwarmingly showing appreciation. Everyone except Ziggy, which kinda hurts my heart, honestly. This episode is mainly a look at Gem and Gemma as characters. Venjix attacks the city and damages the oxygen regeneration plant, which is how Corinth is able to have oxygen. They beat up the villains and send them fleeing, but it's all another trap. The plan is to suck out all the oxygen in Corinth and make everyone suffocate to death. Anyway, Gem and Gemma have the idea to just head to a nearby outpost and start blasting. They get warned of the possible consequences of that plan, such as everyone dying, but they don't care, or really seem to understand. So Scott follows them outside the dome to keep an eye on them. They find the outpost and Scott forces them to go along with the real plan. They find the vacuum monster that was going to suck out all the oxygen and fight it. Also being able to combine Gem and Gemma Zords to create the high-octane Megazord with Falcon, Chopper, and Tiger Jet. It's not a great name. They destroy the monster, save Corinth, and Gem and Gemma don't really learn their lesson. Gem and Gemma are really interesting characters. Just like Dr. K, they're geniuses, but also lack social skills. Just instead of being cold and closed off, they're energetic and hyper. Kinda like big kids. They have a lot of energy, but don't listen to authority, doing whatever they want and having a dependency on each other. They're also the only people Dr. K seems to show real emotion towards, almost to a fault, not being as strict on them as she would be on the other Rangers for their recklessness. Prisoners. Gem and Gemma explain that there's a Venjix factory nearby that houses human prisoners, and they naturally want to blow it up. They get told no, but later that day, Dylan overhears the two humming a tune. It's the same tune that plays out of his locket. He confronts them on why they know it. Gem and Gemma were prisoners in that factory, with the next cell over being a blind girl who would sing that tune. They say she was nice, but never saw her face or learned her name. So, with that lead, Dylan naturally wants to investigate. It's dangerous and he gets told no, so he sabotages the other cars and heads out of Corinth, with Ziggy tagging along. On the way there, they get jumped by the grinders, so of course it's time to fight, with Summer even showing up, wanting to do whatever she can for Dylan. Oh, and of course, Jem and Gemma are nowhere to be found. Dylan, Ziggy, and Summer find the factory and see that there's still humans being imprisoned. Dylan wants to see if his sister is in there, so they all sneak in with Ziggy acting as the distraction. Dylan and Summer come across the main computer and Dylan starts downloading the prisoner information. However, some grinders find them and blow it up. Dylan not reaching his sister's info yet, just knowing that she was there. So he attacks the grinders in a fit of rage. Him and Summer are outnumbered. Luckily though, Ziggy uses his secret weapon to trick the grinders.
Shadow puppets.
They head back to Corinth and help the others fight Chainsaw Man. Okay, his name is Sawbot, but I'm going with Chainsaw Man. And together, they destroy it. The episode ends with Scott laying into Dylan, but when he learns that Dylan does in fact have a sister, he lightens up a bit. Dylan says he wants to go back to learn more, and Summer says that they do need to go back to the factory, not only to save the prisoners, but because Venjix is using that factory to create a doomsday weapon, one capable of destroying Corinth. Belly of the Beast. Everyone is trying to formulate the best plan of attack, since there's so many combustible variables at play. Venjix's doomsday weapon will be strong enough to blast through Corinth's dome. They head back to the factory and set their plan into motion. However, they're jumped by a new and improved Chainsaw Man. They fight him and head into the factory, fighting off more grinders stationed there. Scott, Dylan, and Summer are to go into the factory and plant the bombs, while Flynn and Ziggy are tasked with freeing every prisoner. They ask for Jem and Gemma's help, but they say they have their own mission objectives from Dr. K, plugging a flash drive into the system. The bomb's planted and the prisoners are all free. However, that's not enough. Dylan says he wants to search this factory from head to toe to make sure his sister is found, but Summer says there's not enough time, handing Dylan the detonator, allowing him to make the right choice. Which he eventually does, blowing up the factory. Meanwhile, Jem and Gemma run into Chainsaw Man.
RPS, get gear!
Using their flawless teamwork to fight, Dylan runs outside to the prisoners, but doesn't recognize any of them to be his sister. So he runs back to the factory, with Summer following behind. However, the doomsday weapon survived and is heading towards Corinth. Luckily though, Dr. K's secret mission goes into effect, transforming the doomsday weapon into the Whale Jumbo Jet Zord, now being a new Zord for the Rangers.
Yeah, but why a whale? They don't even fly.
And again, if we want to overanalyze this scene, all of the Zords are cute animals, or at least have very cute anime eyes. You could see this as Dr. K using the Zords as a vessel for her lost childhood, using the Zords as giant toys that she can make look cute, since she never got to do that as a kid. It's able to combine with Jem and Gemma's Zords, creating the Mach Megazord, and with its water bow in hand, they destroy Chainsaw Man. We then cut to Dylan and Summer, looking through the destroyed factory that's set ablaze, Dylan not wanting to leave empty-handed. However, the factory starts falling apart and blocks their exits, with nowhere to go other than in each other's arms. Whale Zord! Yeah! Cool. Dylan's happy to be alive, but angry that he's back to square one. But that's when Summer finds a small key in the spot of his sister's cell. A key that matches the one Dylan uses for his locket. Three's a crowd. Dylan sees that his sister's key doesn't work in his locket, meaning it's possible that there's another locket out there. Meanwhile, Scott and Ziggy are grocery shopping when some thugs try to rob the store. They're able to easily handle them, but that's when Jem and Gemma show up to be a little extra, fully morphed and damaging the property. It's another episode where the Rangers tell Jem and Gemma to just relax. However, they're stubbornly set in their ways, leading to them getting way over their heads, and realizing, yeah, maybe they should have had a plan. Luckily, the rest of the Rangers save Jem and Gemma, and they apologize, where all the Ranger Zords combine to create the Sky Rev Megazord. They destroy the monster, and Jem and Gemma try to tone it down a bit. Heroes among us. During a monster attack, Colonel Truman and some soldiers are saving a little girl, when Scott and Jem show up to help out, destroying the grinders and saving the girl. Back at the garage, Colonel Truman shows up and was impressed with what he saw today, and bestows the Medal of Valor to Jem, with Scott being clearly hurt by this. Jem is naturally very happy though, boasting about his medal while not realizing what he's doing. Summer needing to step in to tell Jem that Scott's been working his whole life for his father's approval, but has never gotten it. To clear his mind, Scott leaves Corinth to be alone, but Jem followed him. Scott's angry, but not at Jem. He's just trying to figure out what it's gonna take to make his father proud of him. Just then though, Scott sees some human footprints. He tracks it down and sees some human prisoners. Once again, Jem wants to jump into action, but Scott has a plan. They blend in as prisoners and will try to separate the group from the grinders. One of the men is a former general. He tries to be a hero so Scott and Jem can escape, not knowing they're rangers. So instead, Scott goes with Plan Jem, morphing and taking the fight straight to the villains. They commandeer a vehicle and drive the prisoners to Corinth, the general telling Colonel Truman how Scott's bravery saved everyone. Outside the wasteland, Venjix is attacking again. Even with Jem and Gemma's help, he's able to fend off all the rangers. However, with Scott determined to prove himself, Jem lends him his dagger, and with it, Scott lands a finishing blow on Venjix, destroying him, but again, only his body. The episode ends with Scott saying that the general was from another prison camp, one where humans were being implanted with robotics, like Dylan, meaning there's more people like him out there. Colonel Truman also comes by to reward Scott with the Medal of Valor. However, he refuses it. This entire ordeal only happened because Scott was careless, leaving the dome and putting everyone in danger, saying when the day comes that he truly deserves it, he'll gladly accept it, being proud of his son's honesty. Not so simple. Gemma has a diary, writing entries about all of her new friends and how awesome they are. But when it comes to Flynn, she says he's just
a simple mechanic. A simple mechanic.
He's naturally a little offended, showing off all of his cool gadgets he's created. However, they're all called away to fight a monster. They summon the Megazord and need more power, and Flynn, still fueled by the simple mechanic comment, shows he's been working on an engine cell that'll supercharge the Zords. He tries to use it, but it backfires, frying some of the Zord's systems. Dr. K is able to get them temporarily running again and they destroy the monster. Flynn gets reprimanded for this and feels awful, especially since his engine cell fried the Zords and Dr. K is having trouble getting them back online fully. Gemma sees how hard Flynn is trying and feels like she partially caused this. She takes interest in one of his gadgets, asking if they can work on it together. He says yes, and the two spend all night perfecting it. They fall asleep while the Rangers are fighting a monster. They wake up and are excited to test their new gadget, but just then get jumped by Tenaya 7. Having a really cool unmorphed fight. Look at Gemma go! So what exactly were they working on? A self-deploying combat weapon called the Road Attack Zord, a giant wheel that operates as its own Zord, and with it, destroy the monster. And Gemma writes in her diary once again, saying how all of her friends are great, but thinks Flynn is much more fascinating than the rest. The Dome Doll. One of Venjix's favorite generals returns to base, Kilobyte. He's devious and immediately butts heads with Tenaya, setting himself up as next in command. Venjix sends down a monster to put some toxins through Corinth's vents. However, it's a toxin that only affects the men, putting them all asleep. Well, everyone except for Ziggy, of course.
I think it's because I'm so physically conditioned there it is.
So, it's time for some girl power to save the day. Summer and Gemma fight Tenaya while Dr. K works on an antidote. She makes it and wakes up the Rangers, who join Summer and Gemma to destroy the monster. The episode ends with Kilobyte stirring the pot, saying Tenaya has failed one too many times, but asks Venjix if she knows the truth about herself, with Venjix saying no, and to make sure she never finds out. And action. This is a bit of a weird one, but weird in a good way. The entire episode is a behind-the-scenes look at Power Rangers RPM. Bloopers, the sets, actors, all of it. It's like a bonus DVD feature that found its way into an official episode of the show.
In this shot, Dylan is lifted up by a wire, but we don't want you to see that, so we paint over it using the computer.
But what's weird is that it's like an in-universe behind the scenes. Like, all the characters are still referred to as their characters' names.
Like you guys haven't made a mistake before. Believe me, they have. A lot.
Whatever, I'll take it. It's a fun episode, and I give him kudos for trying something unique. Ancient history. Tenaya goes to the old Alphabet Soup Lab to find any useful technology. Colonel Truman gets wind of this and sends down some soldiers as well. Dr. K tells Truman that they won't find anything, just junk. However, she immediately tells the Rangers to rush to Alphabet Soup and destroy anything that remotely looks useful. They run into Tenaya and a monster and get into a fight, with Tenaya finding something. The Paleozord, a giant train that's now running wild, leading to everyone retreating. However, the villains aren't the only ones who found something. Colonel Truman came across a hard drive. He plugs it in and sees that it's a video document of Dr. K creating Venjix. With this new information, he sends the military to arrest Dr. K. However, she foresaw this, and the Dr. K in the lab right now is a hologram. She tells the Rangers they need to find the Paleozord before it falls into Venjix's hands. Dr. K can reprogram it, but unfortunately, with her being a wanted woman, she needs to evade the law and access a computer. The Rangers get into a fight with a monster while Dr. K is working to reprogram the Paleozord, but she's found by Colonel Truman, who plans on taking her in. Dr. K says she's sorry, and when she sees Truman looking at a picture of Marcus, she relates to him, saying we've all lost so much and have regrets about the past, but the only thing we can truly do now is work for a better future. Truman forgives Dr. K and she's no longer wanted. Not only that, but she's able to reprogram the Paleozord and is able to create the Paleo Max Megazord, and with it, they destroy the monster and save the day. And the episode ends with Ziggy making sure that Dr. K isn't a hologram.
Boo!
Key to the past. During a ceremony, Dylan gets the idea to combine him and his sister's keys together. But before he can put it in the locket, a monster attacks Corinth, so the Rangers gotta morph.
RPM! Get in gear!
They get into a fight, with Dylan fighting Tenaya, where she drops these absolute bars.
When I get damaged, it's just a simple repair. But when you get damaged, you bleed.
Before retreating. Back at the garage, Dylan sees that his new key fits in the locket. It plays a tune, and Dylan seemingly gets some of his memory back, before rushing out of Corinth not saying a word. This was to lure out Tenaya, but when she shows up, Dylan doesn't fight, and instead plays the song from the locket that Tenaya seems to recognize, which means...
You're my sister.
Yeah. You're Corone, my sister. Tenaya doesn't want to believe this, so out of frustration and rejecting the idea, she fights Dylan, who's now hesitant to fight back, until just retreating. Dylan heads back to the garage, but doesn't tell anyone about his sister. Back in Venjix's headquarters though, Tenaya accesses the database and learns that Dylan was telling the truth. She is his sister. However, Kilobyte shows up to mock Tenaya, saying that since she knows the truth now, she's now weak and compromised, but Tenaya is adamant that nothing has changed. They attack Corinth and get into a fight, Dylan still trying to reach Tenaya, and when the Rangers summon the Road Blaster and shoot Tenaya, Dylan jumps in to save her. She gets knocked off the highway though and is holding on for dear life, a mirror of how they initially got separated all that time ago. Dylan reaches out for his sister, and she reaches back, telling Dylan to not let her go. He saves her and finally tells the Rangers the truth. However, they can't celebrate yet. They need to summon the Megazord to fight the monster. They destroy it, and when Dylan comes back, Tenaya's nowhere to be found. The Rangers promise they'll keep looking for her, but just then, she shows up at the garage, saying that she believes Dylan.
And I want to help.
Beyond a doubt, the Rangers are naturally a bit skeptical of working with Tenaya, saying she might be acting as a spy. However, Dr. K tells everyone that Venjix's robot has learned the city's readings and can destroy any area of Corinth at will. So the plan is to stop it from the inside. Dylan will pretend he was kidnapped by Tenaya, while Tenaya accesses the main computer to stop the robot, downloading some extra information. However, Kilobyte notices how Dylan didn't even have on his morpher, or seem to have been in any kind of struggle. Kilobyte plans on destroying Tenaya right then and there. However, Dylan breaks out of his cell and saves her, heading back to Corinth. Meanwhile, Venjix has exiled General Shifter for his many failures, now acting on his own and fighting one-on-one with Scott. Meanwhile, a monster grows big and Shifter uses that opportunity to run away. They summon the Zords, but it's not enough. But just then, Tenaya gives Dr. K a flash drive, and with it, she's able to make a new discovery. That the Rangers can combine all of their Zords. Yes, every single Zord they have can combine to create the RPM Ultra Zord. This thing is massive, and with it, they destroy the monster. The Rangers are about to regroup with Tenaya, but just then, she's hit with a blast by Kilobyte, and she's taken away. Control-Alt-Delete. The Rangers are searching for Tenaya, however Scott starts to feel ill. They run some tests on him but can't figure out what's wrong. Just then, General Shifter returns and shows that he's in control of Scott. During their last fight, he was injected with a key that now puts him under Shifter's control. But that's not the only surprise. Venjix has a new creation, revealing the new and improved Tenaya 15. They brainwashed her. She's Astronema again, seemingly losing all traces of her humanity before retreating. The Rangers manage to knock the key out of Scott and free him. Shifter grows big and the Rangers summon the Ultra Zord, and with it, land the finishing blow. However, it wasn't enough. Shrinking Shifter down to normal size, Scott shows up and plans to finish the job himself, fighting Shifter one-on-one, and with his street saber in hand, cuts down Shifter. while also losing his helmet, destroying him. Doing so, he dropped his last key. Dr. K is able to rework this into a blaster that gives you one shot. It's able to incapacitate anyone, so they plan on using it on Tenaya so they can bring her back to the lab and hopefully fix her brainwashing. However, another robot attacks Corinth and the Rangers gotta fight. This one is super powerful though, and the Rangers can't seem to get the upper hand. So, Dylan, with the blaster in hand, makes a difficult choice, using its one shot to save his friends and destroy the robot, allowing Tenaya to walk away. The episode ends with Dylan having more tests run on him, but the news isn't good. The Venjix robotics have spread to 40% of his body, and once it reaches 50%, he'll succumb to the will of Venjix, with no way of stopping it. Run, Ziggy, run. We open up on Ziggy enjoying a nice day out, until he gets jumped by some of Fresno Bob's henchmen. Even in the apocalypse, and even if you're fighting for humanity, the one thing that will always remain is dead. Ziggy is scared and doesn't know what to do, but Summer says Fresno Bob is a businessman first and foremost, so maybe there's something they can do. Meanwhile, Tenaya cuts a deal with Fresno Bob. His people control the trucks that run throughout Corinth, and says that if they're able to get something for her, she'll bring them Ziggy. And so, a deal is made. Fresno Bob redirects a truck and steals a certain case that Tenaya wants. Meanwhile, the Rangers are fighting Kilobyte. During this fight, Ziggy demorphs, and that's when Tenaya kidnaps him. Fresno Bob gives Tenaya the case, but double-crosses him, saying Ziggy is too valuable. That's when Ziggy is able to fight back and grab his morpher. He morphs and saves Fresno Bob, sending him away in his limo while he stays and fights. Eventually, Gemma shows up to help and send Tenaya fleeing. Venjix is happy with Tenaya for retrieving the case, but is disgusted with Kilobyte for losing his fight. Venjix has also been fully downloaded into his newest and strongest physical form yet. The episode ends with Fresno Bob thanking Ziggy for saving his life, as well as forgiving him on his debts.
I always knew you had it in you, Barbarino.
Don't push your luck, Ziggy.
If Venjix won, Ziggy's looking for someone to hang out with. Unfortunately, everyone seems to be busy. However, Dr. K oddly enough offers to go outside with Ziggy. It's about as awkward as you might imagine. Ziggy trying to have fun, but Dr. K not humoring him. Just then though, they're jumped by the Grinders and Kilobyte. However, he's ultimately overpowered. Dr. K tells him to teleport the two away, which he does, ending up deep in a cave somewhere. However, Ziggy demorphs before Dr. K stops him, saying the teleportation drained his power and she can't recharge him since they're not at her computer. The Rangers get wind of this and try to access Dr. K's computer. However, it's password protected and they only have 5 tries to guess it. They try once and fail, leading to a pre-recorded video message from Dr. K, saying that if you're watching this, then Venjix must have won. This video acts as a history record, aka a clip show episode. That part's not important though. Throughout every flashback and clip show, the Rangers will try another password. Something like Corinth or High Octane Megazord, but nothing works. Meanwhile, Ziggy and Dr. K are running out of oxygen, with Dr. K continuing to give Ziggy the cold shoulder, while he meanwhile tries to reassure her and cheer her up. With time and oxygen slowly running out, Dr. K tells Ziggy why she decided to go out with him. It's because today is her birthday, and she simply wanted to go outside. Ziggy's surprised to hear this, so with the limited time that they have, Ziggy gives her a birthday present, a shadow puppet show, about how the Rangers defeat Venjix, leading to the one thing Ziggy has wanted from Dr. K.
A smile. I did it.
Yeah.
Seemingly spending their last moments of life smiling, the Rangers are down to one last guess on the password. They've tried everything logical, having Summer think that the password must be something illogical. Summer heads to the computer and types in the word Ziggy, recharging his suit and using his powers to teleport them out of the cave. The episode ends with Ziggy complimenting Dr. K's strength, and Dr. K smiling. So, this is one hell of an episode considering it's just the obligatory clip show. Dr. K and Ziggy always had that kind of chemistry that fans will end up shipping together. So to see Dr. K actually having a little crush on him is cute. Mainly for the obvious reasons. Dr. K never had a childhood and being around Ziggy, who's a big child at heart, is exactly what Dr. K needs in her life. A+ episode. Maybe the best episode of Power Rangers ever, I don't know. Endgame. Jem and Gemma reprogrammed a grinder with a camera, sending it back to Venjix's lair so the Rangers can learn where it is. Meanwhile, Dr. K runs some more tests on Dylan, and has bad news. The virus has infected Dylan over 51%, meaning Venjix can now take over Dylan's thoughts and actions whenever he wants. Just then, Venjix, Tenaya 15, General Crunch, and a robot invade Corinth. Everyone gets into a huge battle for the city's safety, giving it their all and blasting them with everything they've got, which was apparently enough to have Venjix retreat. Meanwhile, Kilobyte is planning his revenge, since he overheard Venjix tell Tenaya to destroy him for being obsolete. Dr. K informs everyone that she's working on an antidote for Dylan, one that will remove the Venjix virus from his body. However, it's untested and needs more experimenting. In its current state, it will either fully heal him or fully destroy him. Gem and Gemma's grinder went to Venjix's lair, and now the Rangers know where it is. So Scott tells his father that all of Corinth's forces need to attack it, but Colonel Truman says no, it's too dangerous. Just then though, a soldier shoots at Truman and Scott saves him. It turns out Dylan isn't the only human-robot hybrid in Corinth. Hundreds of civilians are infected, and the virus has reached over 50%, meaning Venjix can turn them on to do his bidding, an attack from the inside. With this new information, Colonel Truman changes his mind. Everyone is about to leave the dome for an all-out attack. But just then, a magnetic wave goes off, shutting down the systems and activating the sleeper agents. All robot-human hybrids are now under Venjix's control, with Dylan fighting it off. The episode ends with Venjix himself walking into the military headquarters, saying that Truman works for him now. And with that, brings us to the finale of Power Rangers RPM. Danger and Destiny Part 1. Corinth's now under Venjix's control. Ziggy, however, realizes that Dr. K is alone in the lab, so he rushes there to make sure she's safe. The other Rangers try to keep up, but are met with a monster. So together,
RPM, get in gear!
everyone morphs except Dylan, who's in too much pain trying to fight off the virus so he doesn't become a slave too. This monster is incredibly powerful and the Rangers are giving it their all. Meanwhile, Ziggy is rushing towards Dr. K when Venjix, Tenaya, and the Grinders break into the lab. We get a bit of a mother and son moment with Dr. K and Venjix.
Complete with devastating flaws.
If I have flaws, it is only because of your programming.
Just then, Ziggy shows up and dives headfirst into a fight. Clearly outnumbered and overpowered, but he doesn't care. He just wants to make sure Dr. K is safe. He's taken captive and Venjix then starts his plan. He's downloading all of the Rangers' biofield information to weaponize it, before destroying the lab and leaving with Dr. K and Ziggy. Dylan shows up to fight, but can't muster enough strength to even stand. So, in an act of desperation, he finds the experimental antidote, and he uses it. It's incredibly painful and looks like it's failing, but it works. The Rangers meanwhile destroy the monster with their Megazord, but that's when Venjix shows up, and with the information of the Rangers' biofields, he deletes the Paleomax Megazord from existence, destroying it completely. Scott, in a fit of rage, tries to fight Venjix on his own, but he's no match, completely knocking him out of his powers. Venjix then targets the high-octane Megazord with Summer and Flynn inside, but Gem and Gemma use their Megazord to take the hit, destroying the mock Megazord, as well as Gem and Gemma, since the powers are a part of the biofield. Gem's last words being, "We would have kept fighting," and Gemma's being, "Never give up," before the two disappear. Ziggy manages to free themselves from the handcuffs. They sneak out of the car and see Kilobyte and Tenaya arguing. Kilobyte has had enough and plans on destroying Tenaya. They fight, but Dylan shows up to save his sister. He then grabs and injects her with the antidote, before getting hit with a blast from Kilobyte. The antidote works and removes the Venjix programming. However, Dylan is left completely unconscious. The Rangers eventually find Kilobyte and destroy him. The news only gets worse when Dr. K says that the Rangers can't even morph anymore, because if they do, they'll be tied to the biofield that Venjix is in control of, and they can be deleted like Gem and Gemma. The Rangers come to the conclusion that the only way to stop a virus is with another virus. They need to put one into Venjix's systems, and the only one who can do that is Tenaya. However, she's scared. She doesn't even know who she is anymore. All she knows is that she wants to make sure Dylan is okay. But Flynn then hits Tenaya with some reality. The only way to save Dylan is to destroy Venjix. If she wants to help him, she has to help the Rangers. Danger and Destiny Part 2. Dr. K downloads this new virus into Tenaya, where then Scott gets Morse code on his morpher from his dad, revealing him and everyone's location, since the whole city was taken as prisoners. So, Scott, Summer, and Flynn head to free the prisoners and fight the Grinder army head-on, with no powers. They free the prisoners and are confronted by Venjix. He offers them to become his slaves. However, they reject it and stand up to him, completely powerless and not backing down. Tenaya uploads the virus into the system, and Dr. K is able to access Venjix's database, allowing the Rangers to morph and fight. Meanwhile, Ziggy stayed behind to protect Dr. K. It's all-out war, with the Rangers striking down every single grinder that gets in their way. Eventually, Tenaya accesses some more information, with Dr. K reversing the biofield, so when Venjix tries to erase the Rangers, he instead destroys his own army. Venjix senses tampering and blasts the tower where the main computer is located at. Slowly being destroyed, Tenaya then gets confronted by General Crunch, but she manages to fight him off. Scott, Summer, and Flynn now just have to deal with Venjix. They fight him, but he's still incredibly powerful, even knocking the helmets off the Rangers. Dr. K is also able to use the biofield energy to do something amazing. She's able to revive Gem and Gemma. Dylan, meanwhile, has climbed to the top of the tower to save Tenaya. Everything then comes to a head here. The Rangers are standing their ground against Venjix. Gem and Gemma then come flying in to blast the tower to drop it on Venjix. Dylan and Tenaya jump out of the window. The tower comes crashing down on Venjix and leaves everything in its path in a smoldering inferno. We wrap things up nicely. Scott has been promoted to leader of Eagle Squad, as his brother's recommendation. Not only that, but Gem and Gemma have become their newest recruits. Flynn is opening up a garage with his dad. Dr. K is opening up a new school for children with Ziggy. And Dylan, Summer, and Tenaya are going to see the world. They have no past. Their present was pretty messed up, but now they can freely look towards a better future. The Rangers hand in their morphers to Dr. K. Dylan's driving into the wastelands, but stops to water another flower. But already, life is trying to get back to normal. But we do end on an ominous note. The Venjix virus seems to still be alive in Scott's morpher, before being taken away by Dr. K. Man, so that was Power Rangers RPM, and if I may say so, what an amazing season of Power Rangers. Heck, what an amazing TV show, period. This was unlike anything ever seen in Power Rangers, and I do mean that. The strong focus on characters and writing, letting things actually sit without rushing to the fun Power Rangers toy commercial stuff. All these characters were perfect. Scott was a strong and ideal leader. Not since Carter Grayson has there been someone so mission-focused and locked into his duties. He had his own trauma in losing his brother and fighting for his father's approval, but tried to never let that interfere with his duties. Summer was such a caring and strong backbone for the team. I know that's the usual girl member's role in Power Rangers, but the fact that she came from a selfish and pampered background really shows evolution in who she is and what she wants to do with her life. She was raised to never help people and let others do the dirty work, so going all in to make sure she's the helpful one now is great. Dylan was the perfect main character, the lone wolf who had an edge to him. Yeah, his story was almost one-to-one with Andros and Astronema, but still works for what they wanted. Ziggy was easily my favorite character and easily the best comedy character in franchise history. Why? Because they let him actually have a character outside of jokes. He's a screw-up who's really not good at anything from a technical standpoint. But what he is good at is the human connection. He's the only one who Dylan truly had a soft spot for. Ziggy's the only one who truly broke Dr. K out of her shell. He has a heart of gold and a fiery passion that you can't put out. Flynn was probably the least developed, but they made him strong and smart, and if you make someone strong and smart enough, they're gonna be someone's favorite. Gem and Gemma were pretty good. A bit annoying at first, but after you realize they were also PTSD-riddled survivors of alphabet soup, their quirkiness was kinda charming. There were seriously only maybe 3 episodes you can consider filler, but outside of that, every episode had such a strong continuity and storytelling aspect. Now, apparently, RPM had a much different ending initially, with an episode called Ranger Black. In this ending, Dylan was supposedly revealed to be a cyborg sleeper agent created by Venjix to infiltrate and gain the trust of the Rangers and would later be Venjix's final body. All of his human memories, along with his human existence and Tenaya being his sister, were fake, created by Venjix in order to lure the Rangers into trusting him. The season would have ended with the Rangers forced to destroy Dylan to defeat Venjix once and for all. Yeah, a little too much of a downer for Power Rangers, but again, RPM was the last Power Rangers season. This was supposed to end it all. Why exactly? Why was this supposed to be the end of Power Rangers? Well, Disney just didn't care about Power Rangers. They apparently hated it. According to Power Rangers RPM producer Eddie Guzelian, Disney was embarrassed to even be airing the show, let alone producing it. Apparently at one point, being told to just dub the Sentai. Disney did not care about Power Rangers. It was the team and crew that actually cared and put in the effort. RPM was the last Power Rangers season to air in the 2000s, and Disney genuinely didn't plan on doing anything new with Power Rangers. Their plans were to release stupid toys, and even release this god-awful Mighty Morphin reversion, which, God, I'll get to that another time. So as it stood, this was the end of Power Rangers. But, in typical Power Rangers fashion, it wouldn't take long until it would be revived. Not by Disney though, but by the man and company who started it all, now teaming up with a new children's TV empire. But that's a story for another day.